Kare Mwapenduka and welcome to Africa Good Morning, your portal into Africa's potent stories. On today's show, we bring you major developments shaping the continent. We begin in Congo-Brazzaville, where an electoral roll overhaul sets the stage for March's presidential polls. In the DRC, former Justice Minister Constant Mutamba faces forced labor over a $19 million scandal. We also spotlight Tanzania's abduction crisis, UNICEF's warning on education funding cuts, and the rise of African coaches redefining football. Plus, Arrie Hougaard brings you South Africa's latest current affairs, sports, and entertainment. Watch us on DStv 285, GOtv 25, oneup2.com, and NTV Africa on YouTube. Now, before we get into our top stories, don't forget that to celebrate its 35th anniversary, ShopRite is giving away 3,500 Namibian dollars in ShopRite vouchers to 35 lucky winners. That's 7 winners every week for the whole month of September. You can join by simply scanning the QR code on the screen and following the instruction. Stick around for our top stories on the other side of this.
Mornings just got better, Namibia. From the latest headlines to the hottest trends, we're bringing you the conversations that matter.
That's right. Bright minds, bold opinions, and a touch of morning magic. This is your daily dose of energy.
So grab a cup and join in on the conversation every weekday morning at 8 o'clock with Smell the Coffee, hosted by Diana Master and Aina Riza Quayo.
Starting us off in the top stories, the Republic of Congo has officially commenced revising its electoral roll ahead of next year's presidential elections set for March. The 2-month-long process, launched Monday in Brazzaville, aims to enhance transparency and ensure credibility in the polls where President Denis Sassou Nguesso seeks re-election. Sassou Nguesso, aged 81, has led the nation across 2 separate periods since 1979, securing consecutive victories since his return in 1997. In 2015, he amended the constitution, removing the 70-year age cap and extending presidential terms. Opposition leader Clement Mirasa recently argued the incumbent should not run again. To facilitate the process, electoral lists are displayed at town halls, with officials urging citizens to verify their registration before the October 30th deadline. Unregistered voters risk exclusion from the ballot. Authorities have also highlighted efforts to eliminate deceased voters from the records. In the last presidential election in 2021, more than 2.5 million Congolese registered to vote. Officials emphasized the revision as a crucial step to bolster public confidence and safeguard the democratic process in the upcoming elections. Moving on to our next story, former Congo Justice Minister sentenced to forced labor for $19 million corruption scandal. In a landmark ruling, Democratic Republic of Congo's former Justice Minister Constant Mutamba has been sentenced to 3 years of forced labor after being found guilty of embezzling $19 million earmarked for a northern prison construction project. Security was heightened around the Kinshasa Court of Cassation on Tuesday, with roads blocked and police deployed in anticipation of unrest. Mutamba, a 2023 presidential candidate and former anti-corruption advocate, denied all charges, with his lawyer calling the verdict unjust. Despite his resignation in June, the court ruled that Mutamba intentionally pursued illicit enrichment while bypassing legal procedures. His controversial tenure included attempts to reinstate the death penalty for journalists covering Rwanda-backed rebels, while forced labor in Congo typically equates to prison terms. Authorities have yet to clarify his detention arrangements. The case has become a pivotal test of the government's resolve to tackle entrenched corruption, signaling a potential shift in accountability for senior officials. Public debate continues over the broader implications of the ruling on transparency and governance reform within Congo's political and judicial systems. In our next story, survivor of a Tanzania abduction speaks out amid rising enforced disappearances. Tanzanian activist Edgar Mwakabela, widely known as Sativa, has recounted his near-death ordeal after being abducted in June last year. Kidnapped on a Dar es Salaam highway, he was beaten, interrogated, and ferried over 1,000 kilometers to Katavi near the Congolese border, blindfolded and handcuffed. Sativa says his attackers, whom he suspects will link to authorities, ordered his execution. A bullet pierced his skull and shattered his jaw before he was left for dead. Against the odds, he survived and was rescued by wildlife rangers. His story highlights an alarming surge in disappearances ahead of October's elections, with opposition members like artist Shedrack Chaula and politician Mpoluka Muduta Nyayangali among those missing. UN experts report over 200 enforced disappearances since 2019, accusing the government of targeting critics, claims denied by authorities. Families remain in anguish, with police investigations criticized for opacity and inaction. Rights group activists and regional observers warn of growing intimidation, torture, and harassment of dissenting voices, intensifying fears over Tanzania's democratic space as elections approach. Moving on to our next story, UNICEF warns funding cuts could force 6 million more children out of school. UNICEF has warned that a looming $3.2 billion drop in global education funding could push 6 million more children out of school by the end of 2026, raising the total number of out-of-school children from 272 million to 278 million. The projected 24% reduction in official development assistance disproportionately affects West and Central Africa, where 1.9 million children risk losing access to education, while the Middle East and North Africa face an additional 1.4 million dropouts. Côte d'Ivoire and Mali could see enrollment declined by 4%, impacting 340,000 and 180,000 students, respectively. Primary education faces the sharpest blow, with funding expected to fall by a third, threatening children's future earnings and deepening the learning crisis. Humanitarian settings are most vulnerable, with critical services like school feeding programs and girls' education initiatives at risk. UNICEF calls on donor nations to safeguard funding, prioritize foundational learning, and increase support for least developed countries, stressing that education protects children from poverty, exploitation, and instability, while building pathways to more resilient, prosperous societies. In the last of our top stories, rise of African coaches marks new era in continental football leadership. African football is undergoing a significant transformation as local coaches take center stage in leading national teams during the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifiers. Currently, 24 of Africa's 53 men's teams are managed by African coaches, including Mali's Eric Chelle with Nigeria, South Africa's Benny McCarthy with Kenya, and Senegal's Ali Cisse now at Libya. Once heavily reliant on foreign expertise, federations are increasingly investing in local talent. with success stories such as Walid Regragui guiding Morocco to the 2022 World Cup semi-finals and Immerse FAE winning the 2023 AFCON with Ivory Coast. Advocates argue African coaches bring emotional investment, cultural understanding, and cost efficiency, while critics insist continued technical improvements are vital. However, the transition faces hurdles. Some coaches, despite lucrative contracts, struggle with inconsistent results, as seen with Cisse's rocky start in Libya and Charles' criticism in Nigeria. With just 4 qualifying match days left, high-stakes fixtures will determine which 9 African nations secure World Cup spots and whether homegrown coaches can cement their influence on the global stage. That concludes the top stories. We now take a look at the weather predictions for Southern Africa. It's now time for the South African Report with Arrie Hougaard. Good morning, Arrie.
Yes, a very good morning, Glenora. Nice to talk to you. Very good morning from Cape Town.
It's always lovely to talk to you, Arrie. Now, getting into the current affairs in South Africa, South African Minister of Agriculture John Steenhuisen is concerned about the spreading of foot and mouth disease into more provinces of the country. And also, South Africa's largest groceries retailer, Shoprite, plan to also offer banking solutions to customers. And in another current affair, noise pollution seemed to influence the decline of African penguin population in the Algoa Bay region. Can you tackle some of these topics?
Yes, sure, Glenora. Yes, the foot and mouth disease is a challenge for South Africa. It's actually also a bit of a threat for Namibia. There's on the border there of the Orange River, there's obviously animals on very close to Namibian borders. So it is a problem for South Africa. The problem is that it's been spreading. So that is Minister Steenhuisen. He's the Minister of Agriculture in South Africa. So he's got a difficult job now. The reality at the moment is that there's urgent short-term measures needed for the foot and mouth disease. The reason is that it's spread. So what's needed now, it's called for a boost in vaccine availability. That's how a vaccine is applied. And there's also a call for efforts to restore market access to where it's still possible. So at the moment, the reality is that there's 2 more provinces outbreak in the Eastern Cape and the Limpopo in the northern part of the country. So already there's 274 unresolved cases. That is in KwaZulu-Natal, also in Gauteng and the Northwest, the Free State and in Mpumalanga. So I've basically mentioned all the regions of South Africa besides the Western Cape. So it is a big challenge at the moment. The reality is that countries like China, Zimbabwe, and of course also Namibia, they've suspended imports of cloven-hoofed products. So that's not good for the South African market. And meat prices went up now by 10% because of that. And there's also quite a buying. There's people that's buying because of panic, or they call it panic buying. So the price is up 10% of meat in South Africa. So that's not good. So what's happening? The minister did get some vaccines. He got it from Botswana, actually, that assisted. So Botswana offered South Africa 900,000 vaccines that they've got 500,000 already in June. This week, another 400,000 was received. It cost the government 72 million South African rand. So all those vaccines will be applied now. So that is news. So hopefully that will help for South Africa to stop to fight this foot and mouth disease in South Africa. Apologies. And also going on to the ShopRite store in South Africa, the groceries retailer. And so they said that they're well positioned to also offer banking solutions. So that's quite interesting. And they have 1.2 billion customers that go through the shops annually, that visit the shops annually for shopping. And they have big numbers that they do. They have 252 billion South African rand turnover. But importantly, they say that they have the technology and they have the clients and they can offer banking solutions. So the challenge is there's some big banks in South Africa already doing that business, like Capitec, that's doing great. And so it is ShopRite that said that they know that Capitec do have 25 million clients, and many of the clients and the clients that go to ShopRite overlap. So they want to rather partner with Capitec in a way, similar what they do at Checkers, where it is Checkers developments, shopping and banking at the same place. That is quite interesting. And then lastly, you also mentioned the African penguins. So that is actually a sad story because the numbers are declining. So it's a big threat for the African penguins, the survival on the southern tip of Africa. Beautiful animals, there they are. And the reason for that is on one specific area also where there's quite a lot of them is in Algoa Bay. It's close to Gqeberha. And the reason is mostly for the decline is just what you see there is the boats. So it's not just boats going by in the harbor. It's the only harbor in South Africa that allows ship transfers. So ship transfers makes lots of noise. So it's transfer of oil and liquid and gas and also of fuel. So obviously that new noise pollution is a big challenge for the animals, not only for the penguins, but also for dolphins and for whales. So conservationists are very concerned about this. The minister did announce some. So they were in 2015, there were 8,000 pairs of penguins, mating pairs of penguins. Now there's only 700. So it's a big decline. We'll see how it goes now. September this month and October, normally the months where they're mostly at sea and fishing and catching fish. That's the penguins now. And they need to return in December. So hopefully there will be more than 700 pairs that return in December. So that is a So that is current news at the moment, Glenora.
Thank you for that update on the current affairs in Mzansi. Moving on to sports. In men's rugby, the Springboks played the All Blacks in New Zealand on Saturday, and the Springbok women's team play France in the Women's World Cup in England. And in soccer, Bafana played two important World Cup qualifying games in Bloemfontein. Can we get into those sports stories?
Yes, we love our sport. Namibia also love their sport. So I know lots of people in Namibia that also support the Springbok rugby team and hopefully also a little bit for Bafana. But the Springbok rugby team, they play on Saturday. So it's a big test, difficult one. That's the old rivals. That's New Zealand. In New Zealand, that's action from previous games. You can just see in the Springbok there, Kwagga Smith in his face. It's a serious business. 9 a.m. Namibian time, that's a kickoff time. So the Springboks play the first of two tests that they play in New Zealand. That's the Rugby Championship. They played Eden Park. The All Blacks like to remind everybody they haven't lost there in 50 games. They have had a few draws, but the last 50 games they played at that venue, they didn't lose. The last time South Africa could win there at that venue was 1937. So it's a long, long time ago. Danny Craven was still playing rugby at that time. So it's long ago. So I like that law of averages. Maybe South Africa can break that. South Africa has beaten the All Blacks 4 consecutive times they've played now, so it's all to play for. Then in the Women's Rugby World Cup is very exciting, and very exciting to see the South African women's team really doing well. They qualified for the finals. They're in action against Brazil. That is the 8th Man City, which is brilliant. And they play against France. It's the last of their round-robin games. That will be on Sunday. That is 5:45, the kickoff time. Actually, they already qualified for the quarterfinals, but important if they can, in a way, surprise France and beat them. They will be number 1 in the group, and they probably play Ireland in the quarterfinals. If they lose to France, they will probably play the World Cup defending champions New Zealand, and that's Libby van Rensburg also scoring the try there. And then on to the soccer, two big qualifying games for Bafana Bafana. That will be both in Bloemfontein. The first one is actually tomorrow. That is on Friday. Bafana play against Lesotho. They use Lesotho use Bloemfontein as their home field because the facility is not good enough for field. But actually, there has been lots of concerns about the quality of the surface in Bloemfontein, the rugby stadium. So the first game against Lesotho has actually been moved to the Dr. Moulema Stadium, and then on Tuesday coming. The rugby stadium, so it's going to be a bouncy pitch. But important games for South Africa, Lesotho, and Nigeria. They need to win that for FIFA World Cup qualifying. So that's in South Africa at the moment, Lenora.
All right, Arrie, now rounding off the South African report, visitors to the Eastern Cape can visit the Bird Island Reserve to see African penguins, and visitors can also take a boat tour to La Croix Island. I want to visit this so badly. Can we get into this?
Yes, I thought I'll stay with the penguins because it's so significant. South Africa, there's boulders and there's a few places to see the penguins, but those are the penguins in their natural habitat. They're amazing to see. So that's true. It's a Bird Island nature reserve there in Algoa Bay. You can go there. It's a part of the Addo National Park, and you can see the animals. You can also see some of the garnets, some of the bird species, and also, if you're lucky enough, you can see some of the whales and the seals. There's the garnets. So that is quite unique to see. What is also unique is you can take it from the Algoa Bay Yacht Club, and it takes about 8 island. You don't go onto the island, but you can see all these. If you're lucky like that, you'll see even a whale sticking out his nose just right there at the boat. So there's lots of marine life that you can see from the boat. So that is quite popular. 8 hours it will take, and it is the Algoa Bay that's quite popular. The Yacht Club. There's been many events there, and look how lovely that is with the dolphins just next to your boat. And it goes back to 1488. Some will remember that did some history in school. It was Bartolomeus Dias. He first made notes of passing by that area of the southern African tip. So it was it's Algoa Bay that's quite popular. And when you're in Algoa Bay, the Yacht Club, what's popular, go to one of the best restaurants there. It's called the Chart Room. And at the Chart Room, you can have great food, great seafood, of course, as well. So that's lots to do in Algoa Bay. That is Gqeberta. So that's the old Port Elizabeth. So it's lovely to visit and go and see the African penguins and support them in their fight for survival. So that's entertainment news, Lenora, from South Africa for today.
I definitely would love to. Thank you so much, Arrie Hougaard, for bringing us those updates from the Rainbow Nation.
Thanks, Lenora. So great to talk to you, and blessings to everyone. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
All right, that's all the time that we have for you on Africa Good Morning. Don't forget to catch us tomorrow, same time, same place. From me, Glenora Shipura, until next time.